Jai Shri Radhe. Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna, Shiva Bhadisha ki Jai. Today is day 65 of our readings, and Varta 56, Chappan, the story of Achyut Das of Saraswat Brahmin from Kara. In this cluster, there have been 2 Achyut Dases already, and this is the third Achyut Das. Today is a short Varta reading. Bhav Prakash. In the eternal Leela, he is a Sakhi of Sri Yamnaji named Rasatmika. She was always absorbed in the loving mood of union with the Lord. He was born into a Saraswat Brahmin family in Kara. He was married off when he was 11 years old. 4 years later, his wife died. He was extremely sad and did not eat for 4 days. He was so sad and did not even listen to his parents. He said that he would become a renunciate. The father offered to find him a second wife. By giving this reassurance, the father was able to get him to eat. However, 10 days after this, his father also passed away, and 4 days after this, his mother also dies. Achyut Das was so sad, he left the house, went to Badrinath, and then on to Jagannath Puri. Sri Acharyaji was there at that time and was giving discourses. Achyut Das listened to him speaking, but because of his mind being overtaken with grief, was not able to understand a word. When that discourse was over, Sri Acharyaji called out to him, "Oh, Achyut Das, why are you so sad?" Achyut Das began to cry, saying, "Oh, Maharaj, I cannot get over my grief." Sri Acharyaji asked him why he was so sad and said he might be able to help him. Achyut Das explained how all his relatives had died, that he had never had to deal with such sadness before, and so he didn't know what to do. Sri Acharyaji told him to go and bathe. When he had done so, Sri Acharyaji initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandh. He took some water in his hand and said some Vedic mantras. With this, Achyut Das began to have wisdom, perseverance, and surrender in his heart, and he became fully resolved in his devotion to Sri Thakurji. He bowed to Sri Acharyaji and said, "O Maharaj, I don't know why I was so overwrought by the death of my relatives, even though this body is not my own, and they were only really related to my body. By nature I am the servant of the Lord, but I had forgotten this status. This is the reason why I was sad. Now by taking your shelter I have entered the realm of great joy. Please tell me how to serve." Sri Acharyaji told Achyut Das that he should stay with him and that he should do whatever service he was capable of. He stayed with Sri Mahaprabhuji and stayed close to him on his holy grace pilgrimage. Acharyaji then returned to Adel and then told Achyut Das to go home and make seva there. Achyut Das began to cry and said that he would not be able to tolerate living for a single day without the sight of Sri Acharyaji or hearing his voice. "You have removed all my worldly grief, sadness, but if you go, who will relieve me of that grief?" Pleased to hear this, Sri Acharyaji gave him his sandals to serve and said to him, "I am very pleased with you, so wherever you are, I will always let you have my sight. You will be able to ask me anything you need to know, and I will tell you. Therefore now go home and do your seva." Achyut Das bowed down to Sri Acharyaji, took his sandals on his head, took his leave, and went home to Kara. Achyut Das served Sri Acharyaji's sandals very nicely. This is part 1. Sri Acharyaji always gave Achyut Das his sight and spoke to him too. He told him all about the ways of the path of grace and the Lord's pastimes. Achyut Das was very accomplished Vaishnava and a recipient of great grace. Sometimes after this, Sri Acharyaji went to Varanasi and took the vow of renunciation. He remained as a sannyasi for 1.5 months and then made non-believers think that he had left his body by walking into the Ganga-Giji river. One Vaishnav was with him at the time. He experienced great sadness at the event. Sri Acharyaji had previously told him to go to Achyut Das in Kara because he would remove all his doubts about the actual situation. Then Sri Acharyaji seemingly left his body and the Vaishnav began to mourn him. So he went to Achyut Das in Kara. He told Achyut Das that Sri Acharyaji had, after taking the vow of sannyas and silence, entered the Gangaji and ascended to Golokadham. Achyut retorted that Sri Acharyaji would never do such a thing. You must be mistaken, he said. The Vaishnava replied that he had been in Varanasi with Sri Acharyaji, and then that was what had happened, that he had seen it with his own eyes. Achyut told him that the Uttapan Seva, that is, when Sri Thakurji rises after his rest in the forest in the afternoon, would be in a couple of hours, and that then his doubts would be removed. When Achyut bathed and entered the temple, he opened the doors and called that Vaishnava there. When the Vaishnava looked inside, he saw Sri Acharyaji there sitting and reading. The Vaishnava was very surprised and prostrated to him. Sri Acharyaji addressed him, "Do not doubt. You saw only the pastime that was shown to the world. I am always present in my devotees' homes. Worldly souls cannot see me. The souls who fully believe and are therefore close to me can always see me." In this way, Achyut was always immersed in the loving mood of union with Sri Acharyaji. Thus he was a recipient of great grace. Bhav Prakash. He was a Sakhi of Sri Yamunaji, and there are many such tales of his closeness to Sri Thakurji, but they are not being revealed here. Thus concludes Varta 56, the story of Achyut Saraswat Brahmin from Kara, although in reality there is no end to his story. Shri Vallabhadish ki jai, Jai Shri Radhe. Shri Vallabhadish ki jai, Aaj ke Anand ki jai ho. We resume tomorrow. Jai Ho.